Hey everyone, so wanted to jump on, make a quick video. Hopefully going to do more of these. Just sharing some insights on different things around the medtech industry. So many of you know I actually just chaired a conference at Stanford University called the Life Science Leaders Summit. It was not sponsored by Stanford, but it was on Stanford's campus. It was a great conference, and the uniqueness of it is that it brings together a lot of people from the pharma, medtech, and the biotech industry all together for one day. So I want to talk about a concept or a thing that came up. So we actually went through, and I'm just checking my notes here. There were a lot of different things that were covered, and one of the things that was covered was concerns for 2020. And one of the things that came up, and I'm going to try and put it in the video later, but if you check out here, that Gallup did a poll. And this poll was about business and industry sector ratings. Guess who ranked at the very bottom of this list? And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 25. 25 industries, right? So 25 industries, and the pharmaceutical industry came in at an all-time new low of 27% positive, meaning that 27% of the American public view it in a positive light, and total negative 58%. So over half of all Americans look at the pharmaceutical industry very negatively. And I was very quick to point out at the conference, because I knew that some of my peers in the biotech and medical device industry said, "Haha, pharma not doing so hot." But the healthcare industry actually came in third lowest. Third lowest. So it came in with a 38% total positive score and 48%. So again, almost half of the American public looks at the healthcare industry. So overall, when you look at, we can call it medicine, healthcare, we're doing very bad. Very bad. And let me tell you how bad we're doing. The pharmaceutical industry actually ranked lower than the federal government. That aside, the question is, why is that? All right. So if you want to fix something, a good place to start is to start looking at who's doing things really well. All right. So who's at the top of the list? So we look at the top of the list, and this hasn't changed that much in the last few years. The restaurant industry is number one, followed by the computer industry, then the grocery industry. Right. So if you think about it, these are all industries where people actually have, for the most part, a lot of transparency and a lot of flexibility in terms of decision, right? You get to decide where you buy your groceries from, definitely what type of computer you use, and places you want to eat, and they're associated with positive feelings. More importantly, I think these industries actually do a very good job of not only marketing their products, but of course marketing the story that we want, the worldview that we have, and then finding ways to tell those stories in a way that resonates, right? Now, and again, let me put it in perspective how badly the industries our industry is doing, that being pharma and healthcare, right? The banking industry, way higher, right? And this is the industry that, for the most part, in a lot of Americans' eyes, screwed over the general public over a decade ago, right? So that's kind of surprising, right? Oil and gas, right? Most people would think the American public really hates oil and gas. They do. Oil and gas ranks really low. Not as much as they hate the federal government and the pharma and healthcare industry. So how do we change this, right? Number one is pharma, and I'm going to pick on pharma for a little bit because they actually have a lot more advertising dollars than the healthcare industry, right? That being medicine and med devices and everything. They spend a lot of money, right, on non-branded content to patients, right, about their drugs. What they do not do is they do a very poor job of telling the stories of what it takes to get those drugs to market, right? How many millions and billions of dollars does it take to get to market? How much time and effort do these scientists spend in terms of running through clinical trials, dedicating their life's work to figure out how these different drugs work and finding essentially cures and treatments, right? They do a very poor job of doing that. And the other problem is that there's a lot of silence, especially when something goes wrong. When something goes wrong, our industry, for some reason, I say our again, we're going to lump pharma and healthcare together for a moment. we often think that we should not address things, right? So when The Bleeding Edge came out, again, this is a Netflix movie that really paints the medical device industry in a bad light. I didn't really see anybody come out and gave the sort of opposing opinion, opposing side. And the problem with that is that if you don't give people a full picture, right? If there's a frame that's here, and the only thing people are looking at is its corner, by not providing the full picture or the rest of the frame, that's what people are going to focus on. And this has been done over countless of years and decades. And the problem with that is that what's done in these sort of hit pieces, whether it's, I think John Oliver did one on the medical device industry, that was trending on YouTube for #1 for a few days, actually. Everybody saw that. Millions of people saw it. The problem is that that starts communicating the worldview of how people should perceive their healthcare providers and the healthcare industry. When I say healthcare providers, that's not just people who are in the industry, but that's also people who are physicians, nurses, hospitals, etc. Right? And I think the way the general public views the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry is in people who are very greedy, who are looking for ways to lobby with the government and do whatever they can to maximize profits. And the first step for our industry to move away from this is start doing a better job of public relations and marketing. Because if we don't go out and tell the stories of how many of us take enormous risks and put in a lot of time and hard work to find innovations, to take them to market, to make sure that they get into the hands of physicians and nurses so they can help patients, then people, no matter what they see, will come up with their own narratives as to why the industry is the way it is. The best way to deal with bad press is to get way ahead of it. So you do a good job marketing your story, showing the stories of the doctors and nurses, your R&D team, all these people who put in a lot of time and energy to work hard in terms of elevating the standard of care, right? That at least gives the public something else to work with to say, okay, well, there's a different side of the story. Because right now, the only side that they're seeing is whatever side the media wants to tell them to look at, right? And the problem is that when bad press comes out about the industry or company, etc., a lot of the strategy comes down to silence. Like, let's just wait for this to blow over, and then the news cycle will sort of wash it out and people forget and move on. Well, the problem is, yeah, they forget and move on, but then when they're reminded again of the industry, right, that's what they have been anchored to for so long, right? If you look at any major organization, or let's say a sports team, even the slightest bit of bad press, what happens? A good public relations strategist says, we need to get out in front of this immediately, we need to address it, mention what was done wrong, how we're going to move forward and correct it, right? That's what's done immediately in all these other industries, except in our industry. If you look at medicine as a whole, a big reason why healthcare is the way it is today is because, again, we left it up for grabs on the table. We did not take ownership of these things. And the people who ended up deciding the narrative around medicine and healthcare and pharma, ends up being politicians and lobbyists. And that's going to be the same story that happens again going to this election cycle because, again, it's such an easy industry to pick on. The one thing that we have to keep in mind is that if you are quiet about your narrative, right, if you don't do a good job of going out and telling your story, right, whether it's through public relations or marketing, just finding ways to show the behind the scenes of what it takes to bring these innovations to market, the partnerships, the hard work between industry and medical teams. When there's silence, people will fill silence with speculation. When they speculate, it's always going to be negative. So I think we have a lot of work to do as an industry, and we have to find ways to partner, of course, with healthcare, that being physicians and nurses and hospitals, because they're definitely very busy and they need help and they need someone to help highlight and tell the stories of of what they're doing. Yes, our healthcare industry and healthcare system is very much broken here in this country. We have to get better about it, but we have to start by reframing the narrative and showing the full story, the narrative that will hopefully illuminate a bigger picture for everybody. That's my bit for the week. Leave a comment below. What do you think about this?